It's time!
What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by Tom. Tom, how are you today, man?
I'm doing well. What a night of fights. I definitely didn't take a nap at all during the main card, but I'm caught up. We had some definite upsets, some people that we thought were awesome and had a huge hype train and actually came through and had that hype train a la Jonathan Almeida. That guy looks like he can definitely be a world beater at 205 or 265. So the heavyweight division really heating up, after we talked last week, John Jones, the whole Francis thing. So a lot of eyes on the heavyweight division. But what were your thoughts on last night and how you doing this Sunday morning?
I'm okay. The Giants lost yesterday, so that season's over. But UFC's in full swing, and like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Incredible night of fights. There was a lot of excitement, a lot of action. Another hype train, and we could just roll right into this. Hype train derailed. Terrence McKinney getting knocked out by Ismail Bonfim. Crazy flying knee. And it's kind of funny because Terrence McKinney, like, he was all over social media the past couple of days talking a lot of smack from, KSI, the guy that does the celebrity boxing, to people that work at like various sports, media companies. And then he gets finished efficiently, violently. I was really hoping he wouldn't, because they were going to make that fight against Patty, it seemed like, next, if this hype train kept going for Terrence McKinney. Then you line him up against Patty, hype train fight, but I don't know how that's going to go now. What do you think? That was that. I think that was after the Drew Dober fight. Last night he went in with
We're just improvising here. We're running the impromptu slideshow. So
no, I know, but I'm just saying, because last night he had the Super Saiyan bleached blonde hair. But what do you think is next for Terrence McKinney? Also, what did you think of that fight last night?
Hey, listen, I think Terrence McKinney came out, and not that he's always been like super technical in the past, but Terrence McKinney came out, and especially last night, looked like he was looking for a really spectacular knockout, and maybe he was buying into his own hype a little bit. And I don't want to discredit him or discount him at all. He's definitely a very interesting fighter, and when you have a finish on your record of 7 seconds, of course you're going to get eyes, and you're going to have that mystique of having that knockout power and being someone to watch. But I think what really takes guys to that next level is having that level of pressure on them and not succumbing to it, and also remembering to stay course, stay a very specific game plan. And you kind of looked at the pairing of Terrence McKinney and Jamahal Smith. There was a lot of talk and hype and media fanfare about those two guys fighting together. I don't know exactly what it was. But you look at Jamahal Hill, and everyone was underestimating him and expecting, including you and me, Keith, expecting he was going to go in there and, he was going to throw wildly. He was going to throw without too much thought behind it. He was eventually going to end up getting taken down. And when he got taken down, it was going to be over and Glover was going to beat him up. And it was going to look a lot like, another fight that we saw earlier on the card. So, I think for Terrence McKinney, he went out there and he looked like he was headhunting a little bit. He was throwing spinning back kicks. He was throwing, roundhouse kicks off the, without setting it up. He wasn't, trying to settle into a rhythm and let the fight come to him and capitalize on defensive miscues by his opponent. And he was facing a really, really strong opponent. And I think he succumbed to it. And that's the third time he's been knocked out by a knee. So, I think for Terrence McKinney also, maybe it's a 4D chess move with the knockouts that he's had and the exciting fights that he's put on. I think the UFC wasn't going to give him Paddy Pimblett. And now, hey, maybe taking that loss makes him a little bit more attractive. Make it looks like, he's a little bit more beatable. And maybe now he goes and he gets the Paddy Pimblett fight. That'll be interesting. I know a lot of people have Paddy Pimblett pegged against Tony Ferguson. But, I don't know. I think, Terrence McKinney, I think, he'll probably learn. I think definitely learn from it. I'm not any less excited about him, but it, definitely derails his hype train quite a bit.
I haven't seen that Patty versus Tony Ferguson.
That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I've seen thrown out there by a couple of different people. I mean, it does make some sense. Tony Ferguson not having a very strong chin, but still being thought of in really high regard, a dynamic striker, and getting past him, for Paddy Pimblett, I think does something a little bit for maybe credibility, showing that, hey, if this guy, Tony Ferguson, we got to remember, before he got knocked out by Michael Chandler, he had Michael Chandler stunned, and he came out of that first round. We were excited that Tony was back. So there is maybe a little bit shred of the old Tony there that I think, if Paddy was able to get past, adds a little bit of credibility and washes out the taste of Jared Gordon, the loss to Jared Gordon, should we all say. So, I don't know. I could see that happening. I could see that being something that they put together, right?
Yeah, and that shoots him right up into like the top 15 at that point. But that is super interesting. But last night Terrence McKinney, crazy finish. And then RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez getting rocked too. I mean, that was nuts. Bruno Ferreira, faint left hook, like crazy shit. I never thought. I mean, we've seen, RoboCop take some damage, but like the way that he slept last night, that kind of made me a little sad because I like RoboCop. He's entertaining. He's a fun guy. Always goes in there, puts on a show for everybody. And to get knocked out the way that he did last night was shocking, especially being, a little bit of a heavy favorite. We had him on the show, I believe, as prelim lock type pick. And Bruno Ferreira, he was on his UFC debut as well last night. Good night for guys on their debut. Bonfim debut. I believe it was Ferreira's debut. And
it was both Bonfim's debut. It was Ihor Porteria's debut. You said Bruno Ferreira. It was his debut. I think a lot of good debuts yesterday.
Yeah, which is like the reverse trend because, typically guys on their debut, they tend to suck a little bit.
A lot of good debuts for Brazilians specifically.
Yes, in Brazil. But just to touch on Ihor Potieria, did you see him emote do like a Fortnite whatever move after he TKO'd Shogun Rua? Did you see that shit? That was so.
I missed that, but I did see him give like a super cringe interview. But it was, I thought it was cringy, but at the same time, it's not his language, so definitely get a pass.
No, he did some kind of weird Fortnite thing, where he pretended to shoot a gun in the air and do a dance, and
really
that was some weird shit. But and he's saying that he's the future of the UFC. Listen, dude, I don't think that's the case because they picked you to fight Shogun because they thought you were a tomato can that he could beat on his way out. So I don't know if you're necessarily the future of the UFC, Ihor Potieria, but believe in yourself. Sure, go ahead. But I didn't like that emote that he did. It was just kind of ridiculous. But
here, wait, I think I might have it here.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see.
I don't know what happened there. Yeah. He heard it bad with a right hand.
Yeah, DC. Yeah, he's about it.
And that indeed does it. Ihor Pot.
Oh, yeah. Check that out.
What is that shit? What is that, bro? He looks like such a goober. Oh my god. Yeah, what a move, just to do that little emote thing. I think that's what the kids call it. Yeah. Ihor Potieria, allegedly in his mind the future of the UFC. So,
nice, man. Yeah. Well, that being said, I mean, going on to I guess let me see here. What else on there on the undercard that I wanted to talk about? Oh, the Bonfim brothers, dude. The Bonfim brothers came out there. Now Ismail Bonfim is the guy who beat Terrence McKinney and the guy that we thought was arguably less exciting out of the two brothers, but he went out there and got that knockout victory at Terrence McKinney. And then, not to be outdone, I believe younger brother, Gabriel Bonfim, went out there and had that slobber knocker of basically just over a 4-minute fight with Munir Lazzez, ultimately getting a finish himself. What a debut by two guys, brothers nonetheless. So may have to take a relook at my whole like siblings can't be good in the UFC at the same time thing.
Yeah, that kind of cracks the code, right? Or breaks your theory.
It would be certainly, and I mean, you also got to look at it too. It's not like these guys got tossed nobody. I mean, Munir Lazzez is, a very highly touted. He came off that decision win over against Angelou, so he lost to Warley Alves, but he's got the win over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, which definitely hasn't aged too poorly. So I mean, Abdul Razak Al Hassan not exactly a world beater in his own right, but still, these guys are not coming out there and fighting nobody. They're coming out there and they're beating names, guys who are shown to be capable inside of the UFC, gotten a fair share of wins. So really impressed by the Bonfim brothers.
Yeah, another guy I expected maybe a little bit more from. I wasn't super disappointed, but I think the ceiling is a little bit high, and I just don't think he gave us everything he has last night. Is Melquizael Costa. I believe I think I said that correctly. It's a new name over here, and anybody that's been watching this for a while knows I suck at ethnic names, I guess. And I expected a little bit more from him, but there were a few moments, and he was fighting Thiago Moises, which he's no slouch. But it was an interesting fight because he was smiling the whole time, having fun with it at least. I look forward to seeing him again. I like his story, so Melquizael Costa. Looking forward to seeing him back.
And I'm looking forward to see what we see from Thiago Moises moving forward. I mean, this was a guy who, had his fair share of losses inside of the UFC, but it wasn't to just anybody. So now seeing him come out and have such a good showing to a definitely qualified prospect, granted it was his debut and we know how debuts typically go. Maybe he was still feeling, I mean, he didn't look awful, like you said. I mean, he looked good, but I think maybe there is something left, something else there that wasn't shown last night. But even with that being said, Thiago Moises, really impressive victory. And I really want to see, what's next and how he gets back on the horse moving forward. Speaking of getting back on the horse, we touched on it a bit, but RoboCop and Bruno Ferreira, I mean, just really, you didn't think that you would get that knockout from RoboCop. There's a guy who, thought he had the best, one of the best chins out there, and to see him go down. Him and the combination, him and McKinney back to back for us was like, oh, we thought those two guys were going to be our staples. But I went and actually rewatched our video last week, and it was like, I was definitely cognizant of, the fact that McKinney was fighting a Bonfim. But yeah, really interesting card last night. Moving on to the main card. How about Gilbert Burns taking on Neil Magny and getting that finish?
Yeah, that was great. I mean, that played out exactly like I thought it was going to. You could see it's a testament to how great jiu-jitsu is and how great Gilbert Burns' jiu-jitsu is. Just he was able to pass over in a half guard, and Neil Magny being how long and tall he was with those long legs, he wasn't able to get him underneath Gilbert Burns' hips and push him off. So once that fight went to the ground, it was really like Neil Magny was then in Gilbert Burns' world, and Gilbert Burns controlled that fight. Just a testament to how great his jiu-jitsu is. The ceiling is the roof, in the words of Michael Jordan, for Gilbert Burns. He's a huge fan favorite, a favorite of mine in that welterweight division. I'm really looking forward to what he does in the future. And last night, like Neil Magny, he's not bad competition. He's a guy that you pull out a win against him. It's it's an achievement. So I thought great fight for Gilbert Burns. What do you think, Tom?
My biggest takeaway for this one was Gilbert Burns still has his jiu-jitsu at 170. He hasn't lost it. He's been a guy who goes out there and he's gonna maybe use the grappling a little bit to deter you and then stand and strike with you and try to knock you out, a la the Hamzat Chimaev fight. Granted, he didn't have the wrestling advantage there, but still, seeing Gilbert Burns go out there and show really good fight IQ and show the ability to get somebody down, go after the submission and finish it on the ground, showing that you are still that dual threat up at 170 pounds. And Neil Magny's not nothing, but Gilbert Burns went in there and he handled them solidly as somebody who is in the top 5, top 3, top 4 of the 170-pound division. That's how you would want to see somebody in that area go out and handle Neil Magny. So really good showing by Gilbert Burns, and I really liked what he had to say afterwards, where he's calling out Colby Covington and Colby Covington's inactivity. Something briefly on Colby. Apparently Colby came up to Gilbert Burns like in a casino somewhere, and was just overly nice, very, very friendly to Gilbert Burns, saying how he's just such a big fan, he loves everything he's doing, blah 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 blah. And Gilbert thought it was out of character, and apparently Gilbert said that Colby mentioned that that's a character, whatever, I'm a big fan. Gilbert thought it was a little weird that he was overly nice to him, and he but apparently was saying that, hey, listen, like, I don't agree with what you say, but also at the same time, more power to you. I don't have anything against it. So, whatever, they made amends. But I think that would be definitely a really good fight. See how good Colby's grappling is, be able to defend those takedowns from Gilbert Burns. And if it does go to the ground, Colby's submission defense, that's something that I would like to see tested at this point in his career. And then if they both stand and bang, we know Gilbert Burns has that power and Colby's going to have that steady pressure. We haven't seen Gilbert Burns really have too much of a cardio issue either. So I think that's a fantastic fight between two of the top in the division, and I'd love to see it, but I don't think Colby's going to fight anytime soon, because I think part of his, and this is just hearsay, but I think part of his ongoing legal situation with George Masvidal hinges on the fact that he has sustained either like a TBI or some sort of injury that would keep him out of fighting. And that's what he's going after George Masvidal, for money for. So if he turns around and takes a fight, that's clearly not going to get him anywhere in his legal battle. So I think that's maybe some big hurdle point and why we have seen such a period of inactivity from Colby. So it'll be interesting to see if Colby, being, I think he's like 34, 35 years old, it's going to be interesting to see how much of his career he's going to hinge on what can only be a lawsuit out of pure pettiness and revenge.
Yeah, I don't know if it's pettiness. I mean, he was assaulted in public, but
as a UFC fighter, yes, I understand he was assaulted in public as a UFC fighter, but as a UFC fighter, you can't do that forever, right? So how much of your career are you willing to lose in a legal battle with somebody if you don't truly have the injuries you say you have, right? Maybe there's a bit of sleight of hand where he's like, yes, I have these injuries. Can that injury be proven that it was from that specific instance where George Masvidal, caught him out of, caught him with a sucker punch? Or is that from maybe his history of fighting that he has those brain injuries from, if they're able to be proven? So maybe there's some sleight of hand that's going on to be like, oh, you want to sucker punch me? Well, now I'm going to come after money and this and that. Like, these two guys hate each other. So to say that this lawsuit isn't based on a rivalry, whereas if it was somebody else, maybe he wouldn't donate this amount of time of his career. It's just interesting to see how much of his career is he willing to donate to a legal battle that may or may not be fueled by hate. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I just, from a personal standpoint as well, like, if I hate somebody and they run up on me in public and crack me across the face, I have a career, and maybe there's injuries I sustained at work, right? I have a blue collar job. I will take my time away from work just to fuck with them in a lawsuit as well. And, I mean, if anything like that ever happens, we're going to have to scrub this video from the internet. But, I totally understand it, though. Like, I get it. And, in that division, who knows? Maybe Colby is accepted that maybe he has a good shot against Leon of holding that belt someday, if they made that fight. But I think he kind of like, after losing the belt twice, maybe the title's out of his mind for a little bit, or he knows that whenever he comes back, he can make a run at it again. So, and then, maybe we'll see him back in like 6 months. But I do like the fight against Gilbert Burns a lot better than I would like a fight against Hamzat as a Colby fan. I think he matches up against Gilbert a lot better. Um, and then I like that fight a lot better. So I hope that comes to fruition at some point down the line, and maybe it works out well that Colby's in his legal battle now because Gilbert's just coming off of a fight now. He didn't take a lot of damage though, so they could turn him around pretty quickly. Gilbert, I know he was talking about that going into this fight, that if he doesn't get too beat up, he'd be willing to turn around quick and, fight again soon, potentially be like the backup for the welterweight title fight in, London coming up. So, great for Gilbert Burns though. Super high ceiling, super excited for him. Huge fan. I hope he keeps rolling the way that he is right now. His stock is rising.
Yeah, just proving that he belongs at the top there. If anyone forgot, he doesn't fight all that often. I think the Hamzat fight definitely put him on the map a decent bit. So, and then following up with a good fight here, good showing. Love to see it, getting finishes, doing what you need to get done to build a following. So love Gilbert. Love the the nice guy approach. Love to see that rising to the top. I remember when he fought Wonderboy Thompson, and it was just like two of the nicest guys possible. Oh. What a matchup that fills the heart with joy. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's testament to like you see Glover last night too, like nicest guy out there. These guys that are super tough and can take a beating and give a beating, they're not like your typical tough guy that tries to hide not being able to fight by pressing people out at the bar and right. being like super aggressive. Like they're really nice guys and they have 1,000 ways that they could fuck you up. So
lump Brandon Moreno into that, what do they call, what does Rogan call them? The nerd assassins, and the assassin baby, nerd assassin baby, whatever. Speaking of him, man, how about that showing last night, and how about the calls for a no contest?
Ridiculous.
I mean, they were really quick on it too. When Figgy got allegedly, when he made the like, as the kids call it, the emote, right? As he made the emote that like he was like looking to the ref to check his eye because he thought he got poked. Clearly, it was on the right side, and that was at like the midpoint of the round. And then he got taken down shortly thereafter, and they finished the round on the ground. After that point, and then they immediately cut right to it and showed that. And even during the round, they were talking about it. After a quick miscue, they said that he got poked, and then they kind of went back and went through, and like while they were on the ground, the guys on the commentary on the commentary booth were talking about the fact that he was poked on the opposite side from where he was punched, and on the side that he got punched is where he was claiming there was an issue with his eye to the referee. So I think there's absolutely no argument for a no contest. Why would that be a no contest? It was a clean punch that landed him in the eye. Did they say what that injury ended up being? Was it like a fractured orbital, and that's why it initially bothered him and why it swelled up so much? Like, did he blow his nose and that's why he couldn't see? Like, do you know anything more about that?
No, I didn't see any reports on that yet. But I'm 100% with you where it's like if they showed the punch, clean punch, shut his eye. Solid. Brandon Moreno was very explosive last night with his hands. He had a few shots that missed wildly, but when they did connect, it was, you could see they were damaging Figgy like bad. So that's what happens, right? Like sometimes your eye gets shut when you get punched in the face, and we've seen plenty of fights come close to being stopped. We've seen fights get stopped before. Doctor stoppage, TKO, whatever the case may be. It could have just, I don't know what the injury was, but the fact that it just swelled up and he couldn't see. Mm-hmm. But Bisping, I don't know if you saw Michael Bisping's tweet last night. He said something along the lines of like, a fair call. It's okay to fight with one eye or something like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, he would be the foremost authority on that, right?
Yeah. So, but I'm with it. You got to keep fighters safe. That's now like a whole side of his face that he can't see out of, and he's not a one-eyed guy like Bisping that is used to that.
Well, I mean, you heard his corner. You heard the translation where they were like, "Fight with one eye, fight with one eye, fight with one eye." And it's like, yeah, that's you're in Brazil, dude. Like, to think that they wouldn't hear you in Portuguese, in a country that speaks Portuguese, say fight with one eye, knowing that that's blatantly against the rules.
Right.
Like,
the look on Figgy's face too, as
he
they're
knew.
yeah, you could
He
see
knew
it.
when he was like, "Listen, I can't see out of this thing." And when they went to look at it, and like, he didn't protest it. And then actually, I was just looking at an article over here, where he goes, "I felt the eye poke. I thought it was an eye poke, but there's nothing much I can say. Hopefully, I don't have any long-lasting problems with my eyes." And then it was also funny because we were talking about, like, I think it was last week, we were talking about. Oh, let me share the screen here. Why is it not sharing? There it is. Here we go. Yeah, you can see here where he said that he felt the eye poke, who doesn't have any long lasting problems. And then also he's saying that he was growing tired of making the weight. And I think we were just talking last week about, how Davison Figueredo is probably, as he's getting older, how he's still having to cut all the way down to 25. And when he does so, he looks so, I don't know what the word is, but just so drawn out and so late to get there.
Yeah, he always looks emaciated.
That's what I was thinking of, emaciated. I was gonna say emasculated, and I'm like, that's just not correct.
That too. But
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding. But he last night I was a little confused because obviously it's not obvious, but I don't speak Portuguese. I'm not Brazilian. And I've now I have a little bit of an urge to learn Portuguese, but never in my life have I ever taken a Portuguese class whatsoever. But last night, Davison Figueredo is addressing the crowd, and he's saying something, and everybody's booing, and he's like unstrapping his gloves, and I was like, dude, is he retiring right now? And then the translation came across that he was just moving up to bantamweight. I wonder how he's going to fit into that division, considering that that's already like pretty jam packed. A little bit of a bottlenecking going on in that division too, because you have Aljamain up at the top, kind of like holding things, holding up the division a little bit, and then you've got just so much talent. I'm curious who they match him up first against, and where he goes there. I really don't know if he's going to see much success in that division, but what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with Figueredo at bantamweight?
Well, listen. So he's not gonna move up to bantamweight and fight outside the top 10. That's what's not gonna happen. Hey, like a Davison Figueredo versus Dominic Cruz, that would be an interesting fight. I would wonder what the trade-off would be in his speed and strength. There was a couple instances last night where he was in the what's the opposite of dominant, the less dominant position, and was able to just muscle his way out of that position against Brandon Moreno. Now, granted, Brandon Moreno isn't the biggest, strongest guy. That would be Davison Figueredo. And I think Figueredo uses that size to his advantage. So moving up to 35, where he's not going to have that much size, he's still going to be very strong, but not going to have that large of a size advantage. I would be interested to see how he gets out of those more precarious situations. So, that would definitely come into effect on the ground, against maybe a Pedro Munoz, definitely a Ricky Simone, an Umar Nurmagomedov. I think those are really bad matchups for him, considering the length that he's now going to be giving up out there. If he fights someone in the top 6, I think Rob Font's already matched up, right? So that would be something that I would look for against him. You have Peter Yan and Merab Dvalishvili matched up. I would think Piotr Yan would maybe be a good matchup for him. I think Merab would probably outmuscle him, being that Merab's a weight bully in this division of himself. So, really interesting. Chito Vera potentially would be a good matchup, but isn't Chito already matched up?
Yeah, with Corey Sandhagen, I think.
Right. So, really, really jammed up. You'd have to maybe look at somebody outside of here. Maybe he waits for one of these fights to break up and materialize. Maybe he gets the loser of one of these two. Peter Yan and Merab Dvalishvili, or maybe he gets the loser of Vera and Sandhagen. If it's Sandhagen's on a bit of a slide there, know. But again, the reach, is it's a lot. So yeah, definitely, it's not like he's moving up to a division where he's going to have clear success. It's not like moving up from 55 to 70 or 205 to 265. So definitely.
Not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I was just Henry Cejudo
he's stepping back in too, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, and these two guys trained together, or Henry Cejudo helped coach Davison Figueredo for the last Moreno fight. So maybe I don't know if those two guys are going to want to fight, being that, now they've been in a camp together. But that could potentially be interesting because you have Henry Cejudo coming back, who, is going to slot back into the top 10. They've been talking about him fighting Sean O'Malley. If you have Cejudo versus, Davison Figueredo, that they match up well against each other, I think. Both somewhat well-rounded guys.
They would, I guess, be probably around the same age, right? I'd be worried about, Cejudo is so technical, obviously, with everything he does, and so calculated. I would worry about Davison Figueredo, who relies a lot on speed and strength, up at 35 against somebody who technique beats some of those more athleticism based, gifts, so to speak.
Yeah,
so
true.
Really, again, listen, it's Henry Cejudo. You know what I mean? It's not like we're talking about guys who are outside the these are top notch guys that is in hands down the best 135-pound division in the world, and the top echelon are going to give him problems as they give each other problems. So that's not a knock on Davison Figueredo, but it's not like he's walking into something easy. And speaking of something, I don't know how do I transition this? I don't know. But I just wanted to touch real quick before we move too far down the line and talking about the futures. Jose Aldo getting recognized for the Hall of Fame last night real quick. That was really nice. That's obviously known for a while that it was just a matter of time for Jose Aldo to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, as a guy who's rich, sprinkled throughout the past of the UFC, and on their 30th anniversary, it only makes sense in Brazil, no less. So really awesome for Jose Aldo.
Yeah, classy move doing it in Brazil. I really like that. And it was there were a lot of people getting emotional there, like Damian Maia. Outside of Jose Aldo shed a few tears. Damian Maia was very emotional. The crowd was feeling it there. MMA is almost as big in Brazil as soccer is. So for them to have one of the pioneers of MMA over there be honored in such a way, he was super dominant when he was in the UFC, over the featherweight division. So just super happy for Jose Aldo, and just class act, classy move. And I hope it's not the last we see of him. I hope he, sort of stays in the public eye a little bit. Actually, you know what? I think he's got a boxing match coming up, so that won't be the last that we see of Jose Aldo for a while. I'm not sure who he's matched up against, but wishing him the best. Super excited, to see him box. I'm actually going to look up who he's boxing. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, and I also, one other thing that I heard him mention in one of his press conferences yesterday, or whenever he was talking to somebody, he was saying that he really appreciates and values his kind of friendship that he has with Conor McGregor now. He's like, there's no hard feelings. We've got over it. And, I'm happy to say that, what was once a rivalry blossomed into a friendship, and they share DMs from time to time. So it's cool to see, those two guys who are responsible for so much of, UFC, and not just UFC, but MMA history, and responsible for bringing it to quite, the level it is today, and being so notorious, should I say, pun intended. Good to see that them share a friendship and a bond over that.
Yeah, that's sport. That's kind of when I started getting into it. I was always somewhat of a fan, and then you have Conor McGregor, who's a force in the media, and Jose Aldo, who, just kind of catching on to the sport at the time, is a legend, a dominant champion at that time. And I think something else Jose Aldo said was that Conor McGregor had a pair of red panties left for him in his hotel room.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and now they're buddies. So
yeah,
it's it goes back to the thing with Colby and Gilbert that you touched on before, where you have to sell a fight at the end of the day, and that fight sold I don't like the phrase sold like hotcakes, but that blew the roof off the UFC, that Jose Aldo Conor McGregor fight.
Oh yeah,
international press conference. I'll still go back and watch some of the embedded stuff. And Jose Aldo, he wasn't like the star of that. He was more like Conor McGregor was the heel, but he was also the face in a way.
Jose ended up being like the butt of that whole thing, where it's like it kind of stepped on Jose a bit to prop up Conor in the UFC.
Right.
So, but obviously that was Jose Aldo's lowest point, and he came back and had so many high points other than that. And even if that, where it didn't end up necessarily propping him up, it got his name out there and it got fans to the sport who eventually became Jose Aldo fans once they learned about it and watched him fight more and all of that. So, and then seeing him go down to 135. And I think at times he was even saying like, hey, 135 would have been my weight class for the majority of my career if I just like had a nutritionist. So that's just showing like, when we think of the guys who are the greats, goes to show you what goes on behind the scenes that maybe that they won not because of, but in spite of. And, it's really interesting when you think about like, I think right now we think like, oh, wow, the UFC is like, it's so mainstream now. But I think things like that, realizing that was only 4 or 5 years ago, that there's still a long way to go with this. And in terms of the talent level that we're eventually going to see, we still think of Jose Aldo at a super high level competing, well into his mid to late 30s. At 135 pounds down a weight class, saying, oh, if I had a proper nutritionist, I would have been down here my entire career. And who knows what he could have done and what he would have looked like. And just translate that to the future and the next generation of fighters and athletes that you're going to see. There's some really, really high level competition that we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years coming up.
Yeah. You have a guy like the Bonfims last night showing up in their first fight looking like
Raul Rosas.
Contenders. Yeah, they look like contenders immediately. So
at a crazy young age.
Yeah, it's crazy. The sport's evolving very, very fast. All right, and then we've got the main event, right? We've got Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill, who it's kind of funny. We've been doing this for over a year, over maybe almost 2 years now. We were calling him Jamahal Hill about 2 years ago when he came over from the Dana White's Contender Series, and now he's the light heavyweight champion, and we know his name. It's Jamal. It's not Jamahal. Even though we said that, we definitely said that a few times.
More than a few, yeah. Me, I think specifically.
No, I've said it. I've said it plenty of times too. But it's not your typical spelling. But great for him. Sad for Glover. Glover is an absolute legend of the game. I've been listening to in small pieces Jocko Willink with Tim Kennedy. It's an episode that came out over the summer. Tim Kennedy, another UFC legend, trained with Chuck Liddell in the pit in California in like the 2000s and or the aughts, I believe they call them. And Glover Teixeira was like this boogeyman, and anybody that's like kind of aware of the sport kind of knows that. He had visa issues back in the day, struggled to get over here in America, and then when he was here, struggled to compete. And so that's why we saw this emergence of Glover, at a later age. Like he was the boogeyman for some time period. Like they brought him into the pit to train with Chuck Liddell in jiu-jitsu. And, just a guy that went from like such a scary behind the curtain kind of guy that people had heard of, hadn't really seen, to then the oldest first time champion at 41 or 42 years old. And last night delivering a hell of I wouldn't even say like a hell of a performance, but just it was just toughness, overall toughness from Glover. And unfortunately, he was outclassed. And he said it last night. He's too tough for his own good, especially with how old he is. And he will be missed in this sport big time. So.
No, I mean, exactly what you're saying. And, I think the moniker Old Man Glover was, an endearing one. It wasn't necessarily, a knock on him, because he had shown time and time again that even despite of his, advanced age, especially for MMA as a sport, You're seeing guys like Tom Brady can be 45, 46 years old. That's going to be a free agent, probably going to go to the Raiders. I have my own thoughts on that. But, being 41, 42 years old, maybe 40, how old was he officially? Was he approaching even 43? Being a champion. And the heavier guys, blossom a little bit later in their careers. That being said, I mean, like you're exactly right. He was the boogeyman for the longest time. He couldn't get a visa to come over here and compete. And when he did, he was always at the top of the division, up and around the top, with John Jones holding the crown for so long. There's a lot of guys like Glover Teixeira that didn't quite make it there. But, Glover, because of his style, because of his crazy chin, it really makes you wonder, like the fact that he was able to take all of those shots, as you're seeing here from Jamahal, and then, all of the shots from Yuri Prochazka and all of the shots over his career that really only Rumble Johnson was able to really put him down and put him away. It's really intriguing, and you wonder what his chin is made up of and why it was just so good. But even in his retirement speech, he was saying, hey, I can't do this anymore. I think the fact that the fact that Jamahal was able to defend those takedowns, and when he did get taken down, he got right back up. And then even when he didn't get right back up, he stayed patient, waited for his time, and then ended up on top. When that's the case, I guess we're wondering a little bit about Glover's capabilities moving on in as time goes on, should I say? Or was that just a fantastic showing from Jamahal? Only time will tell. But Glover Teixeira was retiring. I'm gonna help Alex Bejeda and this and that. So wishing him all the best. He accomplished it, got to the top of the mountain, fought again for it, and he's a tough son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm glad he was able to hoist the belt, at least once throughout his career. And it's at least we'll see him in Poatan's corner, and that was what's cool going forward is, this guy Glover, who has trained with and trained so many different competitors, throughout MMA, is still doing that. And, I think we'll see him take on more of a life in that sense, because he does have his gym in Connecticut. I think you're going to see more and more people start to float over there, but he did look pretty stiff last night. He did look, I won't say he looked old, but he did look, he didn't look as loose as he has in previous fights. But Jamahal Hill, I think, is a great champion in that light heavyweight division, because he doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to hold things up. And obviously Yuri wasn't either. Yuri Prochazka getting hurt and surrendering the belt. But I think that Jamahal Hill is a great champion for this division because he's so well-rounded. He really proved that last night. And cardio through the roof. Can take shots well. We've seen Glover really mess guys up. So, and I think the motivation is definitely there for Jamahal Hill to keep fighting, because I'm pretty sure he has like 6 kids. I saw a funny tweet that was like, Jamahal Hill has 6 kids and he's 31 years old. He's worried about wrapping the wrong thing around his waist or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah. The motivation's definitely there. It's like how Charles Oliveira was when he had his daughter. It's like, go make your money now, kid. Like, go get rich. And I hope Jamahal Hill does that. I hope he's, just eyeing up the money. And we'll probably see, what is it now? It's almost February. We'll probably see him fight again at the end of the year, whether it be against Poatin or maybe Yuri comes back at that point. Either one of those is a great fight. So what do you think is next for him? Who do you think we can boost up?
Yeah, no, that would be, I don't know. Listen, it depends on the injuries that he sustained, in his fight with Glover Teixeira. Let me just pull up the light heavyweight standings and rankings. Standings, such a casual. Let me pull up the light heavyweight UFC rankings, and just take a look at this and see maybe what would make sense and maybe who's matched up.
Yuri is like 1, and then 2 was Glover previously, and then Magomed and Jan. That's off the top of my and then you got Rock.
There you go. So you got Jamahal Hill's up here. Everybody's going to move up one with Glover getting out of the rankings. So you got Yuri's next, right? Jamahal Hill looked good. Well, it depends on how long is Yuri out. We still don't know, right?
His video last night.
I'm coming. Yeah.
That's me in the stack.
So how long? I mean, do we know how long Jan and Magomed are out? I think a few months. Are they going to redo that one? Are they going on to different people? Anthony Smith, I don't think has a matchup, right?
Yeah, but I don't want.
Rakic is injured,
He was supposed to fight Anthony Smith, by the way.
right? And Rakic got hurt, right? No, Rakic got hurt during a fight with Jan.
Yes, but Anthony Smith was supposed to fight Jamahal Hill going into this one.
Oh, right.
And then when the Magomed Jan Blachowicz fight ended in a draw, that's when they called Jamahal Hill that night and asked him if he wanted to fight Glover, which is funny.
Oh, right. And that's why Anthony Smith was like all butthurt in the thing. People were saying he was. Yeah.
Yeah. If Paul Craig would have came out with a W last night,
right.
I would have said maybe he goes up there because, at that point you beat Johnny Walker, you're kind of rolling. But Johnny Walker looked really good. I don't know.
I mean, listen, light heavyweight is so wide open because there's so many variables. You don't know about the injuries that are going on there to be able to say one way or another when you can make your next fight, right? Glover's out. Yuri's hurting on the shelf for an undesignated amount of time. Magomed and Jan just fought, so they could potentially be options if in order to feed the 6 mouths plus his, wife or baby mamas. I'm not sure what the deal is. But, in order to feed those 6-7 mouths, if he wants to get back in there in May, June, if he's all right, you know what I mean? Like in terms of he's not beaten up too much.
Yeah.
Get back in there May, June, maybe against Magomed Ankalaev, or maybe against, a Jan Blachowicz. Those matchups for him. Listen, he looked super technical last night. But again, did he look super technical against an old Glover, or did he look technical with UFC caliber Glover Teixeira? So really interesting. Not sure. And only time will tell about that. But all you can say is he looked super technical. He looked very good in terms of his strikes. He showed very good fight IQ, takedown defense, patience on the ground when he was able to get up. He went 5 rounds with one of the best able to do it. Granted, he was old, but still, you can't knock Jamahal Hill, his effort and the fact that he's champion out there. It's just up against a guy like Magomed Ankalaev, who's going to have, that really, really snappy kick. That's going to be a hard matchup. The Polish power, Jan Blachowicz, see how that handles against Jamahal Hill. So,
yeah, I think interesting matchup. I think Glover was kind of setting it up last night. And it's a payday for both guys involved because now you have a guy becoming champ potentially is Poatan, for Alex Fajeda. And I think for him to, also this kind of makes it funny too. This just occurred to me, just to tarnish Izzy's legacy a little bit more, in typical Alex Fajeda fashion. Izzy unsuccessfully moving up to light heavyweight for that one fight against Jan Blachowicz and, getting out wrestled. I think it would be funny if Alex Fajeda went up and snatched that belt. And then it just proves another, it's another notch in his belt. Like, I'm better than you, Israel Adesanya, but I think that maybe Alex Fajeda has 2 more title defenses at middleweight.
Right.
I think you'll definitely see him at some point, though, go up to light heavyweight if he holds on to this belt, maintains champion.
Well, especially if he looks good, in these next defenses, and he went, I think he might be slated against like a Whitaker, if the Izzy fight if the Izzy rematch doesn't happen, you're looking at like a Whitaker, someone like that. I mean, Paul Costa hasn't really been active. I think he already has a fight. Is Marvin Vettori going to get it? A lot of things need to play out there.
Marvin Vettori.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would be interesting. Marvin Vettori, is he going to be able to grapple him? Is Pereira going to be able to land with enough power to finally upset that chin of the crazy Italian stallion that is Marvin Vettori? That'll be interesting to see and find out. It's got to be Israel Adesanya or Robert Whitaker, right? That's got to be your next option if you're Alex Fajeda. But if you come out of both of those fights and maybe, a third fight, I mean, that's a lot. That's a little bit down the road. I think he's 34, 35 himself. But, listen, it depends on how that cut continues to go for him to 85, right? It depends on his ability at 85 and how that cut continues to go for him because he is a gigantic human being. So we'll see. And if he does go up to light heavyweight, you gotta like his chances against a guy like Jamahal Hill, who's gonna prefer to stand and strike with you.
Oh yeah,
You'd probably like his chances against the Magomed Ankalaev and Yuri Prohashka too. Probably I'd give Alex Pereira the edge in. So really interesting if you're that guy. The middleweight to light heavyweight, that 20-pound jump
right.
has seems like it's the smallest it's ever been.
Well, yeah, and keep in mind, two things, right? Alex Pereira walks around very, very heavy. Like I'm pretty sure he walks around at like 230 pounds or something like that. And also, just a massive selling point for the UFC, for a potential Alex Pereira Jamahal Hill fight is, you have these two guys that are like best friends, right? And now he's going up to avenge the loss against, his for his retired friend. So, massive selling point there. Is it too soon? Potentially. But Alex Pereira is probably going to get matched up against Robert Whittaker because Izzy, if you follow him on social media, I don't think he's like totally lost it or anything, but he is doing like all sorts of crazy stuff that you do when you have like.
Old me has got to die.
What did you say?
I tried to do it I tried to do it like an Australian New Zealand accent, but it ended up just sounding like almost racist. So apologies for that. But
No.
My bad. Not my best moment. But
no. Definitely Australian. I just don't have an ear for like accents.
But yeah, no, he's saying like the old me has got to die. He's talking about like some like MMA theory thing, or it's probably knowing him and his love for anime. It's probably more related to that. But
yeah,
I think I remember seeing him post some quote. It was some quote that looked like it was really MMA.
He's been getting tattoos.
Well, that's exactly it. He's like, oh, let me get face tattoos, neck tattoos. Let me change everything about me. The old me has got to die in order for the new me to succeed and whatever. We're like, hey, listen, man, it means you're going to come back and be a better opponent and that more skilled of a fighter and put on extremely entertaining fights. I'm all for it. But, who knows at this point? It could be theater. It could be entertainment just to draw attention to him and his potential next fight. In which case, hey, it is prize fighting, right? I guess prize fighting typically alludes to boxing, but this is prize fighting, at least adjacent. At least it is for the UFC, and that's why they'll put together matchups that are going to make the most money, not necessarily that make the most sense. Make the most dollars, not the most sense.
Ooh, good one. Yeah, I think it would be fun. It's like funny to think about though that like Pereira potentially like mentally broke Izzy at this point. I don't want to like jump that far in, but like you start.
But at that point too, listen, until John Jones signed his deal, and with Conor McGregor kind of separate because he is kind of his own entity at this point. Israel Adesanya was the UFC's biggest moneymaker, and I think he got paid the most. So like the UFC should not be willing to just jump and twist that. Twist his arm while he's down. Like, listen, at the end of the day, Alex Pereira, he doesn't speak English, and I think that definitely limits his marketability. And what's going to draw people to the fight. And it is a business, right? So like if you're the UFC, you love that rivalry because it contains Israel Adesanya, someone who's going to build the fight and who is, no matter what he does, it's intriguing and it's drawing eyeballs. Whether we agree with it, disagree with it, think it's funny, stupid, or otherwise, he's still drawing eyes to the sport. And if you're the UFC, you don't want to crush that. Are you kidding me? Like you want to continue that. You want to continue to ride that wave. So if you're the UFC, like, yeah, dude, get as many face tattoos as you want. Freaking pick a side on the pro-life thing. Like, do it whatever you want. Fire people up. Like, let's go. Yeah. Like, we want you. There's a reason why people can have not so buttoned up personal lives, but continue to fight in the UFC.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it has to make money, and a lot of times fighters are expendable. Unless you're John Jones or, other people who have a bigger draw. Like you would think by Dana White's criteria, or what he says his criteria is that a guy like Greg Hardy would never fight in the UFC. However, he does. Same thing with John Jones. However, he does. If it makes money, it'll find a way to happen.
Yeah, big time. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think we kind of covered all.
Covered it all.
Yeah. I do want to say, though, real quick, I do think that Pereira-Whittaker fight's going to happen next because Whittaker, the whole controversy with Paulo Costa fighting in Perth. But, you saw that, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, just to recap it very fast. Robert Whitaker was under the impression, obviously we can't say one way or the other what happened.
Oh, right. That he had a fight and it was signed. It turned out not to be signed.
Yeah, Paulo Costa keeps tweeting. He's like, I don't have a fight with you. I don't have a fight. And fucking Robert Whitaker, I guess he just thought Paulo Costa was like a nut and fucking with him. And no fight there. So I think Robert Whitaker versus Pereira makes a lot of sense next. But yeah, all right. So
that's all got to be contingent on Israel Adesanya and where he is. At the same time, you got to be realistic. Like, he had 4 or 5 title defenses. He deserves a rematch.
Oh, for sure. But it doesn't look.
If he can't go, then somewhere else. But he mentally, I don't know. But he looks like if he's able to go do that, he's probably physically fine, right? So why do they not have a fight done? Is Pereira's maybe just taking some time off? He did fight 3 times, I think, in 2022. So maybe he's just taking some time off, and hey, maybe. Oh, wait. Oh, International Fight Week. Take some time off, dude. Relax. February, get back in the gym, start training again. We'll give Glover some time off. Give him a month. So March, get back in the gym, train again. You hear about it in April, May, June, July, International Fight Week. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 2 or 3, whatever.
Yeah.
MMA 2.
4 in total.
Yeah, 4 in total, but MMA 2.
Right, for sure. All right, yeah, I'm with you on that. That could happen. We'll see.
And then Conor McGregor's coming back soon. I think he's probably around that same time. Maybe that international fight card. Well, you're not going to put Izzy and Conor on the same card, and you're just giving out too much money.
Right, and then you also can't have
there's no Conor's going to be the main event, and he's not going to be unseated by a thing. But
you can't have a title fight be the co-main to a 5-round regular main event.
So then maybe move Izzy back to be the August card, and then you put Conor International Fight Week or vice versa. But that summertime is looking really good in terms of UFC fights.
Yeah, definitely. Well, even the next few weeks coming up. So we've got
Lewis Spivak next week, which listen. Are you staying up till 1 a.m. to watch the main card? The main card starts at 1 a.m.
No, probably not. Unless I like Devin Clark. Devin Clark could be an interesting fight. Marcin Tybura, Doohoo Choi. Yeah, this is
Choi coming back after a 3-year layoff. I think retired and then coming back. There's a lot of guys from the they did a whole European tournament.
And
there's a lot of guys coming in from that. I think, because this is the fight that was supposed to be UFC Korea, and then when the Korean Zombie wasn't able to fight, they kind of scrapped the whole thing, move it back here. It's in the Apex, but it's still in that same time slot. So that's why it's so late. And honestly, even with the Korean Zombie, I don't know that I'm staying up till 1 a.m. for the start of the main event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that means it's not finishing till 3 or 4. And listen, more props to the guys in the UK that do that on a consistent basis. Call me a casual, maybe I am, but I don't know if I would have done that. Probably not for this card, and especially when you lose the Zombie. But listen, hey, some interesting fights here. I would go with just quick look. Probably I would lean with the guys who are Asian if they're fighting more Americanized or guys from other parts of the world. Just going to consider that on the Korea card, they're going to cater to, the people from that general area. So I would kind of lean that way. Similar. We just saw how Brazil went, right?
Yeah. No, and then in the further weeks coming up, we've got Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, and Emmett and Yair Rodriguez in the co-main for that. That's what I'm most looking forward to. Can't wait to come back and talk about that with you, and get the people jumping in the chat, and those are big cards coming up. And then March, I think we have 3 pay-per-views or 2 pay-per-views in March.
Yeah. Well, so then, Cheeto Vera and Corey Sandhagen, that's a good card. Or at least that's a really good fight. The card could use some work. You got Erin Blanchfield, she's a up-and-coming prospect against Talia Santos.
Mm-hmm.
William Knight, he's always a giant human being that is fun to see. Maybe a little lacking in the co-main, but that's all right. The UFC puts on a lot of cards here.
Subject to change as well.
Mm-hmm. And then Krylov Span, this one, you want hopefully get some love.
Yeah, Montana De La Rosa. Yeah, all good cards coming up. I'm looking.
And then, but right after that, though, you got your Jones and Gon, Jan Valashvili, Edwards Usman too. If that happens, pretty stacked for the month of March.
3.
So
Edwards Usman 3.
Yeah, that if that happens,
Yeah.
Kamaru Usman still, in pictures with his cast and the injury to his hand. That's 6 weeks away, 8 weeks away.
Oh, he's a showman, though.
What'd you say?
He's a showman. He's a little bit of an actor.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he's just wearing that cast. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Apparently, Ali, is saying that it's still me. Because him and Bilal have the same. They both Ali fighters,
right.
And apparently Bilal has been up Ali's butt, saying like, "Hey, if Usman can't go, he has the cast on. Let me go. Let me go. I want it. I want it." Obviously, that would make sense, right? With Bilal Muhammad's most recent win, and him being having that history with Bilal with Leon Edwards, and Leon, the way he justified moving on from Bilal was saying that I won the first round of that pretty convincingly, so I would have won the rest of the fight, but by that same method, then he would have lost his championship fight with Kamaru Usman, right, with getting that big 5th round knockout.
Yeah.
You look at the rest of the fight, you wouldn't have won that, dude. So by that same logic, I guess you would have to owe Bilal, right? You almost made the guy go blind, so least you could do is give him another fight. So I think that would, and honestly, I want to see that fight. Remember the name? He's historically boring. I'll jump off the boring bandwagon for that, and I'll watch that fight.
I have no desire to see Bilal Muhammad in a position where he controls the division whatsoever.
I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. Listen, I admire the fight IQ of a guy who's going to go out there and he was always saying that. First of all, he trains around to a lot of different gyms, so he's got a lot of different ideas of different guys and thoughts. He's been to Dagestan, and in Dagestan, he was talking about the mentality over there. It's like, listen, no. I don't care that you think you can stand and fight with this guy when you clearly have an advantage on the ground. You use that clear advantage on the ground, even if you're in a 5-round fight. In the first 4 rounds, you had been beating this guy up on the ground, and you just want to see what happens. No. You don't stand up and fight with him at any time. You don't give up a clear advantage at any time. And I think Bilal, listening to him speak for 3 hours on Joe Rogan, that definitely ingrained in him. And I think that's why you see him fight the way he fights. He's going to fight a striker. He's going to take them into an advantageous position for him, hold them, and win there. He's not trying to have the most flashy knockouts. He's trying to win the fight. And I can't knock the mentality, at least the fight IQ, the ability to have a game plan that's gonna, they compared it to the NFL, where if they have a good pass offense, you're gonna play pass defense. Just because you have good rush defense doesn't mean you're just gonna have a good rush defense while they execute on the pass. No. Fair enough.
Also, for every smart thing that it sounds like he said, he also I've just seen clips of him saying really stupid shit.
That's true. That is also true.
That Colby Covington and Sean Brady are the same fighter or whatever. Fuck him. He bores me. Sure, I'm not going to knock him for trying to win, but at the end of the day, we don't watch sports just for okay, yeah, you could be a purist, but 99% of the people out there that are watching this, they want to see a fight like last night's main event. They don't want to see fucking Bilal Muhammad, just wrestling and not even wrestling, just sitting in someone's full guard and hitting them with those little baby punches. Nobody wants to see that shit.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I agree. I agree. It's entertainment. I think for him, he's got to understand that listen, I get it. You're winning fights and you're winning through the path of least resistance for you, which when your health is directly correlated to how you choose to go about a fight. Fair enough, dude. Yeah. That being said, you have to be able to realize people aren't going to necessarily enjoy that. In something that they're watching to enjoy, they're not, you know what I mean? You got to understand that you're going directly against what people want to see, and they're probably gonna be less than happy about it. Is all the thing. So if he wants to be listen, I'm gonna fight like this, and fuck if you don't like it, I'm trying to win. I'm not trying to entertain you, then that's the role you have. And then you play a heel. But don't be the nice guy who's like, I'm going to put on entertaining fights. Watch me fight. Watch me fight. I want to watch you watch me fight. And then go put on a fight that people don't want to watch. That's all.
Yeah. And to be this whole remember the name kind of guy, like, it's very flexible. It's
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why people don't like him, is because you're not making, there's no consistent thought process. Like, McGregor can go out there and be like, watch my fucking fight. It's fun. It's this, it's that. You go out, you enjoy it. He wins, he loses. But, it's going to go out there. It's going to be a fire fest. Paul Craig is a perfect example. Paul Craig's going in there. He's either kill or be killed. That's why people watch heavyweights, because they're going in there and there's usually, they want to see, heavy bombs. That's why, flow grappling is not as popular as, boxing, or, I mean, it may be a little bit more popular now than kickboxing, but you get the point,
Yeah.
So I just wish he did too.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you for being here on a nice Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we make some money on some football games in a little bit. Check out the rest of our YouTube channel for football picks from Tyler and Connor. That's over there at Pickin Six. Make sure while you're here, you please like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And follow our Twitter for @_Pickin Winners, Twitter and Instagram. That's where you get updated on all of our content, as well as our personal Twitters underneath. Well, they were under us before, but I'm at Pickin Keith and Tom is at Pickin Fights Tom. And then, Spotify. If you can't watch us on YouTube, definitely listen to us on Spotify. I would listen to us on my commute. I've got like an hour-long commute some days, depending on traffic on that BQE. I would listen to us if
pop that bitch on 1.25 or 1.5, 1.75 if you're daring.
Yeah, well, at that point you're speed listening. But yeah, do it. All right, thanks. Enjoy.
All right, peace.